Gap periodic table. How to teach the periodic table in primary education.
Right, say periodic table quick.
215, 127, 111, 210, 111, 215, 215, same period table, 219, and we say that's my fault.
No, right. Now do it a bit slower.
215, 227, 111, 220, 511, 215, 215, same period table, 118 elements, daily gifts by football.
Yeah.
Jane Stevenson MP seems to be totally unaware that it is used in GCSE science lessons in schools. Instead of giving pupils a periodic table to use for the exams, why not teach it in primary education? They believe that it is impossible to teach in schools. That is why they do not teach it. Here is proof it can now be taught at early years and proof it is used in GCSE science lessons in secondary education. I have developed a science lesson to teach the periodic table in primary education. My MP, Jane Stevenson, refuses to help me and gives me outdated information from the Education Department from 2008 to 2009. Both the government and Ofsted want science and other curriculum subjects improved in schools. This is dated April 2021. So why has government policy regarding improving curriculum subjects not been brought into the 21st century? I have now put together this video that shows how Jane Stevenson is a failure to every child in Wolverhampton. I used to be a lab technician at a secondary school. I understand the importance of the periodic table and how important it is in science-related jobs and careers. Jane Stevenson MP, a former school music teacher, cannot see this. All she is bothered about is committing fraud and herself. If she cared about children, she would want the best education for them. Now let's have a go at Andrew McNeil. Councillor Andrew McNeil represents Bushbury North. He handles all Jane Stevenson MP's mail. He must be aware that Jane is failing every child. This must be Conservative policy. Fail and dupe all your constituents who voted for you. Andrew and Jane Stevenson MP have also failed every child in music education. Here is AQA GCSE Chemistry Specification 8462. This is what is taught in secondary schools. It contains this periodic table. As you look at it, you can see that it is black and white. Hydrogen is not in its correct place. Here we have the atomic numbers 58 to 71. The same applies to elements 89 to 103. We have searched the document for periodic tables, and here it states the following. Use the names and symbols of common elements from a supplied periodic table. Because the periodic table cannot be taught at Year 11 GCSE, in order to this chemistry, they let pupils use the periodic table. It would be more practical if children knew the basic key information of the periodic table before they even started chemistry lessons. Here we have the key to knowing each element. It reads as follows. Top, relative atomic mass. Then the atomic symbol. Then the name. Then the atomic number. All the periodic tables contain all these, but the problem is that different periodic tables have them in different orders. We will now show this in a short while. In this periodic table, there are no colours or blocks highlighted. This proves that schools using AQA GCSE Science Chemistry require pupils to use their periodic table. We have now pulled up Gateway Science Chemistry A Specification J248. This publication also contains a periodic table and is used in GCSE science education. This periodic table differs from the AQA publication. Hydrogen is in its correct place in this table. Elements 57 to 71 are not shown but indicated where they belong. The same applies to elements 89 to 103. Then the elements highlighted in red are missing. We have searched the document for periodic tables and here it states the following. Use the names and symbols of common elements from a supplied periodic table. Exactly the same as stated in AQA. This is proof that children in primary education are required to learn the basics of the periodic table for secondary school science lessons. Here we have the key again for this periodic table. It is in a different order from the AQA. At the top is the atomic number, then the symbol, then the name, then the relative atomic mass. This also proves that the periodic table must be taught in primary education. Here you can clearly see that they both give the same information but in different orders. Here we have the AQA GCSE Combined Science Triology Specification 8464. This also has a periodic table. Notice that the hydrogen element is not in its correct position. Also, elements 58 to 71 and elements 90 to 103 are absent. Yet again, a periodic table is supplied. This is indicated with the arrow. Here we have the key again. Here it is enlarged. It is the same as the AQA chemistry and differs from the OCR publication. It would make more sense to create just one periodic table that teaches everyone the same way. That way no one will end up with a periodic table with elements in the wrong place or missing. All the blocks and colours for the same periodic table. Now for our final demonstration. Here I have videoed a few pages from the AQA chemistry. I have now opened it up and here we have a portion of the periodic table. It clearly states atoms and the periodic table. We now turn over a few pages and we gain a large portion of the periodic table. What this section teaches can very easily be taught in primary education and memorised by every Year 6 pupil. We now turn over a couple of pages. This teaches the halogens. Yet again, this can be taught and memorised by every Year 6 pupil. So why is both Jane Stevenson MP and Councillor Andrew McNeill, both Conservative Party members elected to represent their constituents, deliberately failing every child because they do not want me to earn a decent, honest living? Now here is a video that I have produced so Jane Stevenson MP can watch it. If it is correct, she can then contact the Education Department and if they think it can improve secondary school science lessons, they can then introduce it into our school science curriculum. That is the correct method and procedure for improving education in schools. So why send me a load of crap and try to fob me off with outdated .gov policies that do not work and require to be updated and brought into the 21st century? So please enjoy. Remember, Jacob is a Year 1 pupil and now reels off everything very fast and perfectly. None of this taught at Year 11 GCSE Science in secondary school education.
Welcome to the Gap Year 1 to Year 3 Science lesson. Jacob's periodic table lesson. The reason why the periodic table is not taught in the school classroom is because it is believed to be both difficult to teach and learn. I have now developed a new method of teaching that now allows the periodic table to be taught in primary education in the school classroom. This is a huge advancement in school science education. Let's have a look at a few periodic tables. So let's type periodic table into the Google search engine and hit enter. Now let's click on Images. Here we have lots of designs of the periodic table. Looking at them, there seems to be no standard design, and the creators of these just use any colour they like. In order to teach it correctly in schools, we have to use colours that will be used in every school. So I have determined the block colours from now on will be red, green, blue and purple. All children must be taught the same. Here we have Jacob's periodic table lesson, Year 1 to Year 3 science lesson, periodic table learning. Here we have Jacob, a Year 1 pupil in primary education. This proves that the periodic table can very easily be taught at early years in infant school. Say your periodic table.
So 15 to 1, 2, 2, 7, 1, 1, 1, 2, 10, 2, 5, 1, 1, 1, 2, 15, 2, 15, 7 periods, 18 groups, 118 elements, and silly ducks play football.
We break down the table into 6 parts. The perimeter, the numbers, the periods, the groups, the blocks, and number 6, the elements. These 5 modules can now be taught in 1 hour. This can be taught in whole class tuition. This is our target design, to have primary pupils replicate this diagram. We are now going to demonstrate how to construct this diagram. Once children have learnt the Jacob's periodic table lesson, learning to construct this diagram is easy. Here is our grid section. It has 18 sections across the top and 10 sections going down. That is a total of 180 boxes. Our periodic table will be made up of 118 boxes. We are now going to demonstrate how to work out the perimeter. We start at the top right hand corner. We now use our perimeter numbers. The first number we use is 7, so we count down 7 boxes. Here it is highlighted in red. We are using a big red arrow to show you. We now move on to our next number, which is 15. We now come across the page counting 15 boxes. Here it is again highlighted in red, and again we have a big red arrow showing you. We will now use the same method to fill in our periodic table. 2, 1, 2, 2, 7, 1, 1, 1, 2, 10, 2, 5, 1, 1, 2, 15, 2, 15. We have now completed our periodic table shape. Here is a reminder from Jacob of the periodic construction formula.
So your periodic table.
715 to 1227, the 111, 210, 2, 511, on 215, 250.
We are now showing our periodic blocks and their positions on the periodic table. These are the blocks. S block is coloured red, D block is coloured green, P block is coloured blue, and F block is coloured purple. We use the acronym Silly Ducks Play Football to name the blocks. This is the easy way to remember them.
When silly ducks play football.
Brilliant.
We only want the outline of each block in its correct colour. We will now enter our atomic numbers in each box. We start filling in the numbers from left to right. We start on the top row, this row highlighted. We have numbers 1 and number 2. We now come down to the next level. Next we fill in this row. These are the numbers 3 up to 10. We repeat this process filling in each row from top to bottom. We stop at box 56. To fill in box number 57, we now fill in this box circled red. We now continue filling in this row up to box 71. Here it is highlighted. All the numbers from 57 up to 71 are all contained in this row. To fill in box 72, we now go to this box highlighted. We now continue filling in our numbers until we reach box 88. To fill in box 89, we go to this box highlighted. We now continue filling this row up to box 103. This box highlighted now becomes box 104. We now continue up to box 118. We have now completed filling in all our atomic numbers. We can now write our 7 periods and 18 group numbers on the periodic table.
Now 7 periods, 18 groups.
This is now our completed periodic table. All we are required to do is now memorise the element symbols, and when memorised we can place them in their correct boxes. We have now completed the following: the perimeter or shape, the blocks, numbered the boxes, numbered the periods, and numbered the groups. Finally, the elements, the hardest to learn. Once memorised, this will prepare you for secondary school science lessons. These are the hardest elements to learn. Their symbol does not correspond with the element. The best way to learn is go over just 3 pages every school day for 10 minutes. Over time you will memorise them. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, and finally page 10. Will it be you who discovers element 119?